All right, welcome to a new movie review. Yeah.
Yeah, we're back on the wagon.
Sponsored by the Grand Theater in the Esplanade area.
It's a lovely new theater, and
all right, for reals, those seats?
They're gigantic. If you cannot tell, I'm a big dude. I have. Fuck you. Fuck you. First of all, a lot of seats are not made for big dudes.
They are not.
These seats are made for big dudes. There was a lot of room.
They are comfy as all hell. I don't even know what they're made of, but they are comfy.
And it's new, so nobody knows about it, so it's empty.
Yeah.
And you need to go.
They completely revamped it. It's good times.
It's a lovely theater. I would go back.
And we would also say it had we not been sponsored by them, but we also would never have gone. So, thankfully, this was the impetus to bring us over there.
One hand washes the other, as they say.
But, yeah. So, sponsored by the Grand.
Go
this movie review is about the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
As you can see underneath.
And we saw it at their version of IMAX, the GPX.
Yeah, I actually liked it better than the normal IMAX we go to.
Sound was good.
The sound was good. The ceiling tiles were all intact, which is a plus. It wasn't prohibitively crowded.
They gave us Spider-Man masks.
They did give us little baby Spider-Man masks.
But let's talk about the movie. Because we've got shit to talk about. Right. So, as you are probably aware by now, this movie is very polarizing. It is divisive. It is not doing great critically, but I have long since realized that what critics think about a superhero movie really has very little bearing on my own enjoyment of it.
Right.
But what I was not expecting was... I expected, based on the reviews, that it would be a movie that I would find enjoyable, and that's it.
Yeah.
Walking out of the theater, I found I really liked it. And the more I thought about it today, the more I realized how much I enjoyed it. And I was surprised to hear you say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean... I hadn't read any reviews, but I had seen the ticker on Rotten Tomatoes drop to like 50%. And I was very hesitant because this movie has a lot of stuff it's building up. And I was worried if this was terrible, how was Days of Future Past going to hold up?
Right.
Which is the next jam-packed film.
And the first thing we should talk about is how this movie was built to have 3 villains. Mm-hmm. But let's be fair. It had 2 villains.
2.5.
And the third villain was used as a cold closing scene. Not unlike how they shoehorned Hawkeye into the first Thor purely to introduce him ahead of time. So we were given the Rhino only in the sense that, hey, this guy's a suit of armor by Oscorp. He's the Rhino. He fought. Quick fight. We'll see him again later.
Yeah. If you've seen the commercial, then you've
seen it, and it detracts nothing from the plot.
No, I did wonder when Rhino was going to show up, though.
Yeah, because of the previews.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was better for it because otherwise you would have a Spider-Man 3 scenario where you had Venom and Sandman and Green Goblin, as opposed to just now when it was focused on Electro. Green Goblin had a really cool arc, I thought, in this, and then. My one fault about this movie was I felt the resolution of Green Goblin was rushed. That's the only thing I'll agree on. Mm-hmm. But I still thought his creation to Green Goblin felt natural, and I really enjoyed his storyline.
I'm not so thrilled on Green Goblin in this movie. Mostly because it gave the short shrift to Electro, I thought. Electro was played by Jamie Foxx in this, and...
Just say it right now. Nerdy pre-Electro Jamie Foxx. Chris cannot take
pre-Electro Jamie Foxx. If you've seen Batman Forever and you've seen Jim Carrey in those minutes before he turns into the Riddler, you have watched the same exact role done by different people,
but done by Jamie Foxx. So
yes. It's harder to take seriously. So hard to take Jamie. You can buy Jim Carrey as a nerd. You can't buy Jamie Foxx as a nerd.
Sure, you can.
No,
come on.
Like his gap looks super fake. They gave him a big gap and like a bad comb over, and I was like, "That's not you, man." I know.
Of course not, because he's acting, Chris.
Acting badly.
Magic.
Yeah, it's like if George Clooney played a giant geek and wore like pants up to his
suspenders.
And you'd be like, that's not fucking you.
But once he became Electro,
yes, when he became Electro, he was excellent. I mean, Jamie Foxx is really, really good, and I think he really had fun with this. I thought.
And one thing is, both of those characters, they had to sell you on why they went from, quote unquote, normal people to becoming like psychotic. And I think visually they did that.
Yeah.
Like from a storytelling standpoint, when they turned evil, I didn't feel it was forced at all.
No, I only think that I really thought they were going to set up Harry
and then have him become
the Goblin in the third movie,
right?
And he was just going to be there to like set the seeds. And when he actually turned into the Goblin, I was very disappointed because Jamie Foxx had been doing so well, and it was just. I can see people talk about this movie being overpacked, and I can see how the inclusion of the Goblin would overpack it,
right?
Because it's a lot for some, not for me. I didn't have a problem with that.
I would say the moments as Green Goblin were not as good as moments as Norman Osborn.
No,
Harry.
The kid that plays this Dane DeHaan, who was also in Chronicle, and can join the evil family with William Zabka, Tom Felton, and Joffrey. Yeah. I mean, he's part of this evil family.
He's up there with Joffrey and Draco as like the three boys, and then their evil uncle is...
Who look evil. He looks like a psychopath, especially when he's wearing like the circle glasses. He looks like a psychopath.
There is a scene where he breaks Electro out of prison.
Yes.
And then the two of them break into Oscorp, and it might be one of the best scenes of the film.
I really enjoyed that.
Oh my god, it was because... You sense they're both connected because they're both being quote-unquote discarded. And Harry's character is motivated by his impending death and illness left to him by his father. So, when he starts like acting irrationally, you can understand why.
Yeah.
We'll get back to Electro, but let's talk about the greatest part of this movie, and that is the undeniable chemistry and just the comic book relationship between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
Yes.
Is Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. They nailed it because the big part of this movie was their relationship, their breakup, their makeup, and just everything that makes a Spider-Man relationship so that when what happens, you are right there believing like his pain, and when he cries, it doesn't feel like the cheesy Tobey Maguire cry when everyone makes fun of his face. Like when he cries over it, you're like, yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out that this movie, last movie we talked about this, and this movie has pretty much nailed the fact that Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst are not even close.
No.
Not even close.
Like, we thought they were good because we had nothing else to compare them to.
Andrew Garfield, I think, may be the perfect Spider-Man. Because when he's in suit, his mannerisms, his quips, everything, they feel natural.
And and we pointed out last movie review. I'm not... it's up there somewhere on the interwebs. Tobey Maguire was a joyless Spider-Man.
He hated being Spider-Man, it looked like.
But... Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and it's the script or whatever, but he is Spider-Man. When he's Peter Parker, he can be the insecure like person with a lot of personal and social problems. But when he's Spider-Man, he is all in it. He's making the jokes. He's quipping. He's having fun with it, and they showed that so well.
They did.
He's making so many jokes. He's having fun when they show him interacting with the different like people he saves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a good time.
It's really great. And I think Emma Stone, she had to play the love interest in this, and I thought she did very well with it.
I thought she did really good because as playing as Gwen Stacy, you're basically the person, maybe if you want to refer to it as the bridge that allows Peter Parker to enjoy both sides of his life.
Yes.
And without her, either through the breakup or through other events, like he becomes broken and he can't tackle on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like that rock, and she plays that much better than just being a simple love interest.
Yeah.
Because it was really cool when she helps him multiple times, like figuring out how to tweak his tech so it won't be fried by Electro, or helping him take down Electro, or helping him out with Harry or whatever. Like, she was more than just the damsel in distress and the love interest.
Yeah.
She played an active part, and I think they did a good job there proving that she's a little smarter than him.
Yeah.
And and successful, and she wasn't just defined by I'm Peter's girlfriend like it felt like Kirsten Dunst was.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kirsten Dunst in the movies, she was, the budding actress, and like it felt like a lot of her stuff was like mad at Peter because, I mean, admittedly, Peter didn't tell her he was Spider-Man in those movies until way later. So it was always like, Peter's blowing me off, but like Gwen is very understanding, and when like they're on a date and he just fucking jets because shit's going down.
Yeah, she understands it and she runs after him. But so that whole thing I thought was very strong.
What about the stuff with Richard Parker? So my favorite tweet on the internet was Richard Parker's rich enough to have an abandoned subway, but not rich enough to give his son a college fund and drop him off with his poor relatives.
I'm going to believe that the abandoned subway lab had more to do with when he was working for Osborn. Like, that was probably a sanctioned thing, and then he just kept it off the books.
Yeah.
Whatever. I thought that was the weakest part of the movie because it just was unnecessary. These movies seem determined to build up the... this was more his destiny than anything. That his dad... by tweaking the spider thing so it would only work with his bloodline.
Awfully convenient. Yeah.
It works in the self-contained movie universes.
It's one of those comic book tropes. Like you got these powers only because I did something that said only someone of my bloodline can do this.
Yeah. That part, sure, because you know what? But it also differentiates it from the previous trilogy.
Well, they never gave a shit about Peter's parents.
No. And you know what? I can understand it because some people, I remember asking those questions in the original trilogy, like, what happened to his parents? They never mentioned. They're just, so... And it also helps show why he would be as smart as he is and interested in the things he was. Also, we talked about a lot about Gwen and Spider-Man. I thought for the brief scenes they had, I thought they did a really good job of selling us the fact that Harry and Peter were old friends. Yeah. Like, and that they were friends growing up as kids, and, he came back, and that they now share this tragedy. Like, they bonded over the fact that, like, when he comes in and goes, I know exactly how you're feeling. You were there when my dad died. Let me be there for you.
Their their relationships as a whole in this movie seem way better than they did, and we have to compare it to the Raimi movies because
that's what
they're the only other comparisons.
Exactly.
And when you look at the friendship between James Franco and Tobey Maguire, they're kind of friends.
It didn't make as much sense because why would Harry go to the same public school as them?
Yeah.
But in this one, it's because they were friends from a young age,
and they got bolted off.
Yeah.
Separated. Okay, well, how about...
You want to talk about the other best part of this movie? The action and the visuals. Because this movie was a visual stunner, and the action scenes, I thought, were so well done. Mm-hmm. And especially, Electro became Cole McGrath from Infamous at that point, because they proved that you can do electric powers in such a visually engaging way and have it be a legitimate threat.
Yeah,
and the way they showed it, like whenever they would show it from Jamie Foxx's point of view, and he could see the electricity course.
I thought that was really cool.
That was cool, and especially when he discovers that he can convert to electricity and travel through the waves. Like it led to just a lot of great graphical moments, and the action scenes at the two major Electro action scenes in Times Square and in the power plant. They had a lot of cool auditory cues, too. Whenever he would use his powers, it had, like, musical sounds to it. So it ended up sounding... I don't know. It was all...
There's a fight scene that takes place in a hydroelectric plant with a lot of coils, and the musical cues take their cues from, like, a Tesla coil.
Yeah.
And it's very electronic sounding, and it's a very interesting touch because the music doesn't feel like you're listening to an orchestral soundtrack over it. It sounds very... set, determined, and I know there's a musical cue where Jamie Foxx hears crazy tribal voices,
and that was the cue for him, like going from his Max persona to him going cray cray.
Yeah.
But Electro had just a lot of like auditory cues, which I thought was really cool.
It was a good blending of audio and film.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really well done. Is there anything you didn't like about the movie aside from like the Richard Parker stuff?
Yes.
What?
They shoehorned in this crazy, over-the-top, fucking German-looking Russian scientist dude.
Dr. Kafka.
Dr. Kafka, who listens to opera music and wears the crazy and has the eraser head hair. And everything about him was so unnecessarily over the top when they could have they introduced Alistair Smythe, and he could have been in charge of the Ravencroft Institute so that it makes sense that when he starts becoming like building spider slayers and working with the Sinister Six or whatever, they could have had to be Doc Ock. They could have put literally any number of the crazy evil scientists in Spider-Man's universe instead of putting this caricature in. And I cringed every time he was in it, and thank God he was not in much of it.
Yeah. My only issues are with Harry, actually.
Okay.
I didn't love the fact that he had this illness.
Okay.
The crazy McGregor syndrome bullshit. I didn't love the fact that he co-opted the finale of the movie into being the Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I really wish they had pulled him back a little bit and had been.
Here's one thing I thought they were missing. After, when they arrest him, give us a scene to explain why he's not exposing Peter's secret.
Yeah.
Like, he's becoming lucid in prison. He's putting together the Sinister Six, but they never explain why he doesn't give away his secret.
Yeah.
Especially since he blames him for, injecting the venom instead of his blood and making him crazy and making him do all that and everything. So they could have given us a scene explaining like, he's still my friend, or he's mine to deal with. Like, I don't want to, that's not anyone else's, that's our thing. Or, some kind of obsessive, compulsive reason why he wouldn't. Just give us a reason.
Yeah.
Like when the crazy man in the bowler hat comes to see him, be like, why don't you expose him? Be like, that's because between me and Spider-Man or something.
Yeah. Instead
of just leaving it up to my own imagination. Because I felt that was the big plot hole that I was like, really? Nothing?
I didn't even think of that, honestly.
Because they don't even show him getting arrested because they cut straight to the heavy shit.
Yeah.
And they, so that whole thing felt kind of like out of nowhere, but whatever.
I think, I also want to point out, I thought Sally Field's Aunt May was really, really well done. Especially the one dramatic scene they really gave her where she gives Peter all this shit for looking for his parents and is like, I raised you, you're mine. All that kind of stuff. I thought she was really well done in that.
Indeed.
I want to say, though, the end credit sequence is atrocious.
Yes.
Well, the end credit sequence.
The credits with a terrible soundtrack that just gives us teaser images of who the Sinister Six would be.
Which we already fucking know.
I know.
Look. The fact
the only thing we didn't know was Chameleon, and they showed Chameleon's mask.
Look,
so.
you have to Shazam it over the song,
which is a cool concept that you Shazam the end credits and get the scene at your own leisure. Had it been an actual scene.
Well, I think the biggest thing is there are going to be a bunch of assholes in the movies holding up their phone like, I can't hear what's going on. Shut up.
Yeah.
She's trying to Shazam this fucking nonsense. I think that's super dumb.
Turns out you can actually just Shazam the song at any time.
Well, then what's the fucking point?
Well,
there is no point. Okay, so let's rate it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Okay.
Out of 10 because I liked it. And again, the Amazing Spider-Man series so far has been very polarizing. A lot of people weren't a fan of the first one, and I found I was. But I liked this one more than the first one. Visually, I thought the characters resonated better. The action was top-notch. And I know we disagree with some of our friends on that.
And you notice the split is exactly 50-50.
Right?
Just like Rotten Tomatoes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I find if you go in expecting a comic book superhero movie, you're going to walk out enjoying it much more than if you go in judging it against because that's the problem with our friend Andy is that he judges it as on a movie basis, and that's not wrong. Some people review movies based on movies. I go in and I see a comic book movie and I base it against other comic book movies.
Right.
So, but anyway, I give it an 8. I will definitely own this, but that was never in question. And I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. What about you?
I'm going to give it an 8 also. I really enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I thought the action was excellent. Andrew Garfield is a really perfect Spider-Man. Emma Stone is, a wonderful, as you can expect. The only issues are with Electro with Harry Osborn and basically his entire arc, I thought.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't say the whole arc. I would just say the Green Goblin arc. Because I loved the
finale
turn.
of the arc. Yeah.
Because again, that scene with Electro and Oscorp was phenomenal, and I would not put that in a bad category.
Right. I would probably not buy this just because I don't know any Spider-Man movie, and I don't ever have the urge to rewatch it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not the Maguires, not even the first Amazing Spider-Man. I just don't. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
So probably not. But it's good. You should see it.
So I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
And this has been our Amazing Spider-Man 2 review, brought to you by the Grand Theater and Esplanade. Peace out, and we'll see you next week when we review Neighbors.
Hooray.
And then the week after that when we review Godzilla, the worst movie of this summer. And then finally, the month of May when we review X-Men and see just how many characters you can cram into a movie before it becomes X3 again.
Before it explodes under its own weight.
Yeah, so
just cram them all in.
Just condenses into a black hole of too many things.
Also, we only got 2 trailers. Fuck that.
We did. Godzilla and something else I already forgot.
Days of Future Past.
There we go.
Fuck that. Up your A game with trailers. Movies.
All right. Peace out.